sustainable housing in Nigeria. So I would like to invite the panelists to please come take their seats while I will then ask the keynote person or speaker to make the keynote speech and then join the panel. So I would like to invite for this session I'd like to call on my China, the mayor of housing, So please come take your place. Let's welcome him. My China, please come and have your seat. I also would like to invite Mr. Okoruwa Kennedy, the CEO of Pentagon Real Estate Investment Limited. Mr. Kennedy Okoruwa, Pentagon Real Estate Investment, you're welcome. Let me also use this opportunity to invite the moderator for this section in the person of Esther Lloyd-Ekeh. See here, Esther Lloyd-Ekeh, please come take your seat. Esther Lloyd-Ekeh is the General Manager, Capital City Development Limited. General Manager, Capital City Development Limited. You will now join me as I respectfully invite architect Uche Kalu, who is in the room. Architect Uche Kalu, the MD CEO, Capital City Development Limited, to give us the keynote and then the panel.
CEO speakers and panelists at the Quiz Institution, and a special thank you to my friend and editor, President Kennedy. Very seated very graciously at the panel here. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of insight to the things that we're not discussing. Let me speak to the housing challenges in Nigeria a bit, and we discuss maybe deeper as we set to discuss the issues in the panel. And I don't think that we can really talk about Nigerian moving to the next level of its development without discussing housing to 200 million persons. Housing provides a lot of benefits, and we transit to psychological benefits. And if you are not able to deal with the issue of housing, you are likely to keep producing people that are functioning not really very correctly. You may be surprised to find out that the fact that our housing system has broken down is why we have a lot of people who are more into crime than into real sector. Those days when you had houses for people, parents could train their children and could monitor their movements. Parents can direct even what they study and how they study it. But when you now come to a place where your house is too small, you now have to send your child to your uncle, send to Lagos, send to Abuja. I don't know what happened to you that some parents have scattered their children all over the whole place. Then they come back with different culture, different things, not well tutored, not well programmed, not well, mannered. And what you do is that you introduce those people to society, and they have no value really. In my house those days, when I was young, you cannot come into the house with a strange person's toy. I grew up in Lagos eventually, but what I mean. If you do come back, we will find it. But we don't have people who monitor all that. When you now have slums growing, and those slums now begin to find several tedious ways to grow, to survive, and they do one of things in those slums. And these people grow out of those slums and come into the economy. So you are now asking yourself, how are you going to be able to create a very progressive economy, a very progressive country, if you keep ignoring very critical areas like housing? I'm hoping that as we discuss today, that we'll be able to get to a point where we can find solutions. In thinking, I really want to do, I don't know how much time I have, but 10 minutes, so I'll just talk around the issues. I think I've looked at the challenge we have in housing, or that is expanding our housing gap, is basically three, in my opinion, and some other scholars can expand it further. And that's government, culture, and finance. Once we're able to fix these three areas, we'll be able to really significantly curtail, the issues that are happening or the way that the housing system is going. Government, of course, we have said several things about the government, and they are all fine practices. Their policies. There have been four housing policies that have been developed over since 1970 now. None of them have experienced more than 25% success. In fact, the highest was during Bandida's time. That was when we had the highest success ratio in housing, when we built about 47,000 house units. The rest have not gone beyond 1,000. But Egypt has just built 500,000 in one project. In fact, when I saw that, I was wondering, is it that the military government will think better than the civilian government? They are still doing. And it's unfortunate that we are going that way. We have grown from having just about 4 million housing deficit in 1991 to 28 million housing deficit today. So we have never decreased it. We've never at no point. So we have more slums growing and a lot of other factors. Let me also go straight to say that under the government factor, the fact that apart from the fact that their policies are not working, or that we are not working the policies, we don't really know when there is something, the policies may be very good, but we are not able to work the policy to see to it that someone comes in happen. In fact, it's also coupled with the fact that even other areas that should have tried to trigger private sector participation, like infrastructure development, is also working. So when I come to Lagos, my base is not fully in Lagos. I have an office in Lagos, but when I come to Lagos and it's still like the citadel of Nigerian economic development, and I see what happened, and I'm wondering, when it takes you over 10, 16 years to put one basic infrastructure in place, I've been coming to the Lekki axis for how many years? How many kilometers of road is from Island down to Jeju? And someone cannot build it in 3 years. Then you go to a country, you go to a state like Dubai, you leave after 3 years, you come back, they've doubled the distance of their monorail. Imagine what will happen if there is a monorail moving from here to Ekpe. You don't have to live in VI to work in VI. You understand? So someone that is making millions of naira in VI can invest in Ekpe or invest in Ogun State. And someone can come and people will from there come and you can have a decent life place to live at a very good cost. But it won't happen. They won't even give you liberty to be able to go into the government and process documentations for your project. So the bureaucracy for documentation processing becomes another issue. You are not building infrastructure, you are not pushing your housing policy, you are not even creating smooth, easy process for you to be able to get the necessary certification to get your project going. Like one of our panelists said, someone might be working past and decide to enter your field just to be able to obtain from you guys. And something you don't plan. And it's very true to it that an average Nigerian CEO wakes up on panic mode every morning because what is it? Because when I see that early morning call from any of my staff and I'm like, what is it again? And you're hoping that you can get out of it for several things. Keep planning. Is it even opening new districts? Because if government is alright to it, you can open. I passed through, I went to place in Australia. And even when people have more house than they need, you know that government still went to a place and said, look, this place used to be a farmland. And I said, no, this cannot be farmland. And converted the farmland. That took away the agri title on it and gave it a housing title. And started opening the district and allowing developers to take first batch of district to start developing. They brought in water, they brought in all those things. So you can now be able to comfortably give your optical 20, 30 years district. Well, 10 minutes is too short to deal with all the issues. How we do it. The problem we have here is over 28 million in our housing groups, and of course, 15 million units housing groups. So what? And this is money, because it's about 58 trillion in terms of value. $58 trillion in value. More than $3 now in value. So we even have money locked in real estate alone. Maybe I want to agree with people that say Nigeria still have so much potential that we are not yet using. Because if you're looking at the kind of money I locked into real estate, if they set the condition right, the foreign direct investment and foreign exposure will be chasing us. How do we solve this problem? So I can finish my time. The cultural issues the suffer of people we need to address. If we don't try to use the cultural issues to try to offer some of the solutions. Because it's almost looking like we might have to do the kind of thing that happened in the electric cable industry. You know, like in the midst of all the bad policies and all that, and China chasing the cable industry, they somehow developed. I don't know what they did, but somehow they came out that no matter how expensive Nigerian cables are, people still buy it and go to China. They just maintained quality, they kept standards. There was some level of collaboration that existed among them. They just maintained that standard, whether you're buying notice or you're buying Nigerian or whatever it is. They were able to maintain those standards and they were able to break into the market. Till today, the Nigerian cable industry is still, it's still stronger than whatever China has thrown at us. So maybe we also need to change our thinking and begin to think inwards. Maybe there should be more our own north and south. Maybe it has entered our business mood too. These are I'm learning, I'm not. There's a lot of division that exists. That's why you will come to an estate. Everybody needs a house small generator. In an estate, you know that they have so much generator and it's making noise. And you're asking yourself, why can't everybody here come to that, put the money to that, buy one big generator, keep it somewhere that will not give them noise and be paying? We'd rather buy this and put on our own. And the listener will only be able to serve 1%, maybe 20% of its capacity to your own house. And your neighbor will buy another small one. So maybe we need to also begin to think, change the way we behave as a people. It might help us. Collaboration between stakeholders in the industries might be one key way to be able to solve the problem, to bridge the housing gap in Nigeria. And I'm hoping that maybe these discussions here or this interaction we're having here to be able to pull stakeholders together to be able to work together. Then we also need to change the culture. Then the citizen Nigeria don't pay debt. And that is true. If you live an borrow an average Nigerian money, by the time comes, you will behave as if you dashed him the money. I don't know that you got that kind of experience. Now you was that borrow invest will be thinking of the strategy to use to collect your money. And it has happened. So when you now build a house and give someone and say pay later, I don't know where it will work. So we need to change some of these narratives. The government will be one of the that allow the housing initiate some of the housing policies. In fact, the government build houses which people that were supposed to pay back, they don't pay back. So there was no way to put back more that money to the system to continue that process again. So that's a basic cultural problem. If we need to come up from that, we need to be responsible for the fact that if there's any scheme at all that we provide that if you decide okay, let's do it, go to some kind of cooperative setup and build and give one person so that you as your people can build and give the next person. The next 10 years we will have built for 10 persons. It's not so now. So if you decide to do that, when you give the first person, the first person will begin to dodge. He will not come to bring the thing to you. So you find out that you cannot even sustain any kind of benefit or program with that kind of culture. And there are several cultures. What of maintenance culture? If you build a hotel in Nigeria and leave it for the next 2 years, it will only happen in the next first 2 years. After that is gone. So you cannot even buy the house that you have been built for that existed for 10 years will not become a problem to the society after 10 years. Because nobody is maintaining it. Those kind of cultures are terrible. So there are several cultural issues that doesn't work. We don't plan, we don't live by planning, okay, and we don't sleep. We can also begin to look at how to see that we encourage the government to introduce some level of intervention by themselves. If the government does not intervene, it's going to be a problem. Because the kind of funds that is required to get houses going or to provide these houses, they have to intervene in several areas. providing direct intervention by putting money to build houses that you can give people at low interest rate over a long period of time. They have to intervene in the building industry to make sure that manufacturers are producing goods and producing services locally. Because right now, 60% of what we need to do in the house is foreign grade, is foreign import. So if you are doing that, after your roofing, you are stuck. The cost is going up, inflation is growing around, but if it's local, you might have some solution there. We might also begin to look at how do we open up our congest the urban city and go, outside the major city, provide infrastructure along those lines that can transport people or can allow people to be able to communicate between university and that. A lot of people will leave the urban city and live outside the town. And that itself can go. Open government layouts and people can be able to put infrastructure and people can be able to do that. My time is up, but I believe that there's several things we can do, and to unlock this sector that we are still just scratching. We are still just scratching it. And I believe that if we put our mind to it, we can do quite a lot, in the real estate sector. Thank you, Kalu.
And to contribute to this topic, sustainable housing in Nigeria. It's a very interesting topic because real estate affects every one of us, whether we're major players, minor players, you're buying, you're renting, or whatever purpose you're investing, you're earning money from it. It's very important. And of course, with the 28 million housing deficit, there's a challenge, a real challenge that needs to be fixed. So that's why we're here today talking to our panelists, so let's get them busy. So my first question will go to the Mayor of Housing. I've mentioned several issues surrounding the housing space. So I would like to ask, in your opinion, without the aid of government in providing housing or funding projects or government participation, do you think developers will be able to provide affordable housing? And secondly, are there things that can be done to trigger more government participation or private investor participation in providing affordable housing?
Thank you very much for that question, and well done, architect, for your very short but very comprehensive presentation. Actually, if we want to talk about housing, we could be here all day, and it's amazing how in Nigeria the basic what they call it, basic needs of man, is what they call, how they put it, which is food, shelter, and clothing. Nigeria, they tend not to take priority because when Mazi Sam was talking, there's a big disconnect between the government or the leaders and the people. They don't know what the people are facing. So housing is going to be far deeper than whatever we're going to talk. We're just going to scratch the surface. But when he was talking, he mentioned about three things, factors of his discussion: government, culture, and finance. In my mind and in my operation philosophy, I've taken out the equation of government. Yeah, in order for me not to create false beliefs. Yeah, I think it's the Bible that says hope deferred or something. I don't want to dash my hopes. The only hope I've ever had in government is this 2023 election, because I've seen a couple of players that are credible enough to be able to do something positive. And if we miss that window, there will be more doom. 2023 election on the 25th of February is a doom or boom event. If the right people get in after that event, there will be a big boom, because just like the last speaker said, they said how many $1 trillion looking for where to go into. A lot of people are looking, only the Nigerians in diaspora alone, the amount of remittances they are willing to bring into this country if the environment is right, is something that might not be able to be quantified. If only Nigerians in diaspora, we don't need FDI. So for me, the government equation is cut off from all my business policies, expectations, mindset, worldview, and belief. And what he mentioned about is culture and finance. Those are the two major things. Now, when he started, I love the way he started with housing being linked to our psychological and cultural values, and housing being linked to criminality or rising criminality, because it's rare to see decent environment producing agberos and criminals. So for me, the only way that we can get affordable housing is one way or two ways. Number one, that cultural change. I wrote it down here as forced cultural change. People don't usually change until you force them to change. Just like he said, if you build an estate as a developer and you allow individuals to have individual generators, I have 100 units in that estate, you have 100 generators, or what I call 100 noise rators. But if you force everybody in your estate that generators are not allowed, and you are able to get a power solution that is competitive with NEPA, you will be surprised that Nigerians living in that estate will even hate generators. But initially, they won't want to make that change. So we need more leaders in the industry to be able to endure that forced change. And that has been my 8th grade and all that. They will build his house. After that, it will be Okoruwa for son, the same thing I saw in the north. Until we are able to come together, both as developers, as practitioners, and off-takers, to create systems and models that work for us irrespective of government, we might not be able to have affordable housing in Nigeria. And I'm not just suggesting this. I already have a team of think tank working on how we can develop indigenous housing materials and schemes that people can now afford this house. Because as he said, that 28 million housing deficit, you might be surprised that about 20-something million of it are in the low income and average income space. And most of us building, I have estates in Abuja, I'm building estates in Port Harcourt, they are not for the average income and the low income space, because we won't go into business for a rescue or charity, we are into business for profit. Until we get that space to be profitable enough and a scheme that works for both the practitioners and the off-takers, we might not be able to afford and get affordable housing in Nigeria. And that deficit will keep rising as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that insightful. So you pioneered and of course championed several housing projects, which you handed over. So my question is this: are there methodologies to reduce construction costs? Because if construction cost is reduced, of course the cost to market of those housing projects will be reduced. So like what the keynote speaker mentioned, he said the cost of procuring materials here is actually quite high. So if you produce with that cost, of course your cost to market will be high. Then the mayor also mentioned the possible solution with the indigenous materials. So are there other cost reducing measures or construction methodologies that will help reduce the housing production costs?
We have that's one of the keynote speakers that talked on the aspect of challenges we have with power in Nigeria. One of the biggest challenges local manufacturers have had in the past, which I believe we're still on, is having to compete locally with their cost of manufacturing here. Cost of manufacturing the local product here to the imported product. Now, the cost of manufacturing in Nigeria is quite expensive, and that's one of the biggest challenges that local manufacturers are facing. And that's why we cannot totally remove. I will also put the word enforcing our government to do what they need to do. We need to force our government to do what they need to do, because for us to be able to have an enabling environment that we help local manufacturers to thrive in order to bring down the cost of building materials. Government have to play some underlying roles, in creating those enabling environment to help local manufacturers to produce. In the past, what has been, we've gone through the challenges of delivering affordable houses. Is tough because, like we all know, 90% of the materials we use here are imported. I use the word 90% because of about the 90% of the finishes, apart from the sand and the cement, and the labor, most other things are imported. Yet now we have companies that are manufacturing tiles and sanitary wares locally. We are hoping that they are going to be encouraged, to scale up their production in order for us to have, sufficient supply, to the local market. But if you interface with these manufacturers, you will see that they have the same problem that I'm talking about. We have few manufacturers that are here in Nigeria now that that they are manufacturing local, tiles, sanitary wares, and the likes of it, to meet the international standard. We can talk about their standard. But when you look at their pricing, compared to the imported material, they are either at par, if you are comparing apple to apple. Why? Because of the challenges we are facing in production. There's every possibility that 80% of what we need in the beauty industry are sourced locally. There is that possibility. But that willingness from the Nigerian government to have these things standardized and produced here is what we have not harnessed. We know what has happened to the Ajaokuta steel complex. Today, we import steel for construction. We shouldn't be doing that. We have enough iron ore and all of that. So it has been an issue which we have not been able to solve. So affordable housing is a difficult feat to achieve. Although my own definition of affordable housing is different from what we talk about, because affordable housing doesn't necessarily have to mean a house of 5 million a house of 5 million or 10 million. No, that's not how we should be defining affordable housing. That's not how we should be defining. I've been to China, and China manufacture 900% of their material that they use for construction, and I didn't see $10,000 house in China. It doesn't exist. The United Kingdom, in the US, I don't know if there's anybody here who has gone to the US apart from maybe a dilapidated house who has bought a house of $20,000 in the US. It doesn't exist. But when you translate that to Naira here, then you'll be talking about a value of 15 million Naira. So to define affordable housing, we need to even decide how we want to define what we can regard as an affordable house. Because I think that we are misunderstanding the concept of housing development in Nigeria. Until we get that right, we cannot get it. We cannot get this solution done. And that's why most of our houses are not even mortgageable. So affordability is a big issue that we need to define. So I would say, in my final remark to that question, is that we have not even been able to deliver houses to the low-income earner, but we have built houses to tailor towards the middle market, and we have had, we have created concept where we have made it flexible for people to pay over a period of time. But that on its own comes with a lot of other challenges, so which we might not be able to talk about today. I hope that has been able to throw some light to the question.
So I'll go to the keynote speaker. I mean, you spoke to issues about urbanization, the congestion in cities, creating districts for people to move into. So, dissecting the issue of urbanization, what are the causes or drivers of urbanization? Why do people move to be concentrated in certain cities? And are there economic benefits to that issue if it is resolved?
Of course, like we said here, this is cannot be separated from yourself. But I don't know whether we get to that point where we will not mention government. I just hope we get to that point because some years back, I was trying to develop a project outskirts of the town. And this is not to highlight the bad part of Nigeria anyway. So please bear with me. And while we were on that project site, some young men approached accosted us there. And that was the first time the gun was pointed right into my stomach. Well, I'm here, that means I survived. So that project stopped because I couldn't go to that project again and all that. Once you cannot handle things like security, there's no reason why people will not move. If you are great, if the factories and industries don't find it safe to locate their industries and farm outside areas where they feel that they are protected, people will keep chasing them to where they are not. So unfortunately, even government now, one of the things that I learned that spurred the development of Lagos was that during Jakonde time, he needed to open estates, and build roads. So you have Jakonde estates thrown into different directions, and people will now build whether developing along that line. You can't do that anymore because if you do, nobody will be able to stay there. No factory will go there, no government will go there. So everybody is coming to town. Then you now take years to develop infrastructures like what we are seeing here. In fact, although the first speaker alluded to the fact that some cities got to a city and everybody was building bridge and they actually have their welfare is growing as fast as the bridge is going. But it's good to say that if the government is serious, we can build infrastructure in few months. For in the same country, the government built 15 bridges. I think that 13 now. 15 bridges in 2 years. And not just bridges, kilometers of roads stretched out. So if you don't, how would you now be building one road, how many kilometers of road and for 16, 17, 18 years? How? Everybody will come to town. Nobody wants to suffer. I stayed in the traffic for 3.5 hours in one place. In fact, I spent 1/10 of the day on traffic. And I was like, how? So the next time I'm coming to town, I don't want to stay uptown, even though when I feel the uptown is more comfortable and cooler and more relaxing, I have to come and stay in the busy part of it. So people will keep coming. So if the economic power is in the center, if security is in the center, if infrastructure for development for reasonable, some kind of people is here, they will all come here. There's nothing else you can do. People will always tend to come to where they can survive. People will leave their villages and come here. My village is more relaxing than where I stay. I'm more comfortable in my village. I can sleep in my village and work in my city. It's less than 3 hours. So, but I will not live in my village because to travel from my village to the city, I need a security infrastructure personally built by myself. So you can't do that. And there are places that are so big, the land is so well. So these people continue to concentrate development in one place, and there's definitely no way people will continue to come.
Fantastic. Thank you for that wonderful contribution. So our time is almost up. We'll be inviting questions from the audience concerning housing, sustainable housing in Nigeria. Do we have questions for our panelists?
Us as institutes work on some of these alternative materials. whereby you can take laterite soils and stabilize with 35% cement and compact with some tools. But this things needs concerted efforts for acceptance. Because some people may have a sense of fear that it is not suitable or durable. But what I'm only trying to say is that these things still require high level of engineering to be adopted into it. Because there's no, for example, we don't even have a code, a workable code. We are basically using VS Code, EU code, and other things. So what I'm just saying is that while you are considering this as a business alternative, you should also see the realities of it, the technical delivery of it. So that's what I'm just trying to say that.
That we have better Nigerians than Nigeria government, and he talked about Nigerians in US, Nigerians in America, how we can actually collaborate. Nigerians in Nigeria, collaborating is more critical than Nigerians anywhere. And one of the things I expected from this summit is that after this, we'll all sit back and connect and actually start becoming Nigerians in the Brian Ruben Leadership Summit, so that we can begin to see ourselves. But most people are now gone, we can't even reach to them. So please, immediately after this, let's meet so that I get to meet that institution and all that. I came into real estate so let me just tell you and get back to you. I came into real estate on the simplest platform. I came in 1.5 million naira in 2018. On the back of that social funding model we started. By last year, I have a project in Port Harcourt that ranks in billions. So I have assets in the tone of billions, but I started 1.5 in just 4 years. On the back of innovation and drive. And then what causes such institutionalized research and their acceptability is the wheel of application. So there are a lot of indigenous materials that we want to try that I'm not trying now until my luxury estate in Port Harcourt, I'm doing Lagos and Abuja this year too, gives me enough inflow to be able to risk the money for experimentation. None of us here, if I'm building a house in Lekki that I'm making 10 million naira, why should you come and convince me to take the money to go and experiment in something that might fail? I'm willing to bring out that money because I have that passion. I'm not in this space just to make profit. I'm in this space to be the forerunner to the boom that is coming when this 28 million housing units will be convertible to value. Right now, they are not convertible to value because the low class cannot afford the kind of value we are offering right now. So please, I'll meet you after this so that we can begin. No matter if you want to deliver 10,000 housing units, your experiment on one unit is enough, but you must be willing to lose that one unit when the experiment fails. And many of us, because of inflation and the cost of forex, the cost of importation, our margins, when we start off, we might start off with a 60% margin. When we finish inflation and everything, and forex and everything, we reduce it to 10%. You are even struggling to stay afloat. That's the reality for us. So coming back to your question about clay, I'm obsessed about clay. But one thing kills my obsession. Clay is like a beautiful lady that is so close but not accessible. In Igbo, we call it Ononseiruaka. What makes clay inaccessible in Nigeria is that for clay to be durable and sustainable, it needs to be burned to power. And there's no power in Nigeria. South Africa solved their housing problem through this laterite he was talking about, just like the brother of clay. Yes, but the power to power that burning or compacting and all that was there. Clay is the best friend of Nigerian housing. If you had clay around this pavilion or this clay tent, we won't need this up to 3 units of AC because clay has the best thermal delay quality of all building materials. No matter how hot the sun outside is, it won't get into this room because of clay. But how do we now burn clay or make it get to that? That's the question. In fact, I was in Turkey discussing with my Turkish partner September last year to see how we can affordably, because solar, in Africa, solar is another Onosoiruaka. We have so much sun that this place is almost becoming hellish. But the solar panels are so expensive initially that it makes it hard to even put the infrastructure. But I'm looking at maybe solar that will have a lifespan of 50 years, that we can even use solar to burn the clay or whatever, how local. Why our local houses in our villages succeeded was that they were using firewood to burn the clay and using grasses to bind it and using bamboo. And because it was low scale, those things were naturally extracted. Because we have to industrialize this scale to make it large scale, we need some form of power, just like you mentioned. When we started importing steel, and we know cement is monopolized in Nigeria, so whoever monopolizes cement decides the price of cement. Cement and steel alone is responsible for 70% of our cost in housing. Then every other thing after that is imported. So clay is our best friend. I'm hoping the engineer here, you can find a technology for which we can harness clay without using power. That way we can forget the government. But if it's clay, we are still waiting for the government. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, many of you have actually said it all. There's no way you can get into projects when you are not sure of profits. If not, you will be extinct in a few months because you don't got it. And that's why we need to have real government taking precise efforts to be able to fix certain things in order to not get what they call affordable. And I agree with President Kennedy that affordable housing is easy because again, we cannot even expect people to own houses with kind of our minimum wage. The kind of way we earn, the way people earn in Nigeria cannot give them. So we also need to show the capacity, the earning capacity, the buying capacity of people to be able to even buy, when you do. Because there's still going to be, as long as inflation is still happening and economic forces are still adapting, the value of product is still going up. But we also need to make sure that our earning capacity, the regulations around earning also matches it, so that people can have money to be able to invest and buy all these things. The bottom line is that it's possible to create this system, to make this system work. Both as private sector operations and with government intervention, we can get this thing work. And it's good to be a sector that will really open a lot of opportunities for Nigerians, and I'm looking forward to that time when people will become strong participants in this kind of this sector, and both the engineers. So it's like what you have said, the engineers will not be afraid to do, and housing is something that affects every person, both the lawyers, the doctors, the engineers, everybody, including the people who sell food on the road. So we're hoping that we'll get by it and get through it. Well, just to add to what my colleagues have said, I just think that the Nigerian government needs to look into our sector. There is need for intervention fund in the real estate sector. It is now urgent and it is very important. They have done that in the aviation sector, they have done that in the agricultural sector, they have even done that in the manufacturing sector. But we should look into our sector and do something so that the opportunities in the value chain of the beauty industry can be harnessed. The sector, the real estate and the construction sector, stand a chance to absorb a greater percentage of the unemployment market in Nigeria. So there's a lot that we can achieve by stabilizing this industry. There will be a lot of employment. The Nigerian government can pay attention to this industry, beginning from standardization, from mortgage provision, from transmission funds and all of that. And they should lift restrictions over importation of funds for the real estate sector. It's my honest opinion because a few days ago I was trying to move a discussion with the chairman of the economic team of this government. And I spoke with him, we spoke extensively during salary, and he said the biggest problem, because I was thinking that the pension fund actually you can move 70% of the pension fund into the mortgage refinancing corporation so that they can be mandated to fund the mortgage banks, and so that there will be funds for mortgages, and then funds will be available for developers and construction. And the first thing he talked about was the possibility of achieving that feat. Inflation is a big problem. If inflation is at 17.5% and you are thinking of giving 10% to the pension funds stakeholders, it becomes an idea that you are cheating one part, and all of that. So I just think that it has come to a level where in our economy where the Nigerian government has to look into the beauty industry and intentionally create a sustainable solution that can create a long-lasting solution. Thank you.
Wow, can we put our hands together for our panelists? Thank you so much for giving your wealth of knowledge to the session. We appreciate it.